Chapter 1. Unlocking Cyclical Prophetic Codes. Did you know the following? The second governor of the Plymouth Colony was Sir William Bradford. In the book History of the Plymouth Colony, he said the Hebrew language was the language in which God and the angels spoke to the holy patriarchs of old time. Bradford used the Hebrew language at the beginning of his books, and the Founding Fathers discussed making the Hebrew language the official language of the colonies. The early Ivy League universities often taught Hebrew, and the seal of Yale University has Hebrew words meaning light and perfection. America's founding documents are based on instruction and laws in the Torah, Israel's divine revelation from God. The Constitution, Bill of Rights, and Declaration of Independence all have laws and rights that are based on the Torah, the Psalms, and the four Gospels. In England, the Pilgrims were called separatists. The earliest Jews from Abraham's time were called Ivri. Translated from Hebrew, this means one from beyond. This word holds the concept of one who separates himself, just as Abraham separated himself from his land and family to journey to Canaan land. Both Abraham and the Pilgrims came into a land already occupied by other tribes. Both possessed the land and tried to teach the tribes within their new nation about God and His Word. Both nations were formed with 13 distinct groups. Israel was founded with 13 tribes, and America was founded with 13 colonies. Both nations were divided between the North and the South, Israel between its northern and southern kingdoms, and America's division of the North and the South during the Civil War. When the Hebrews took over Jerusalem as their capital, it didn't belong to a single tribe and was the center of the nation for all 13 tribes. When America's founding fathers began to build Washington, D.C., it was considered a separate city, with all colonies claiming it as their political center and capital. The city of Jerusalem was built up when Israel's second king David took control of the kingdom while his house in the mountains of Zion was built. While Washington, D.C. was being built, it was America's second president, John Adams, who would be the first U.S. president to live in the White House, home of America's presidents. Saul, the first king of Israel, and George Washington, America's first president, were both taller than the average man. Oddly, neither King Saul nor George Washington actually wanted to be the leader. The English spelling of Jerusalem has the letters USA in the middle of the name. These are unusual and interesting connectors linking American history with ancient Israel. Many years ago, I began observing that America and Israel are spiritually linked. What occurred in ancient Israel can be repeated for modern America. In the late 1990s, I saw a biblical pattern that I believed had a parallel for America. I began teaching that the years 2007 and 2008 would be the beginning of America experiencing major transition and change. I believed America was entering its climax as a global empire, followed by an eventual steady decline in status, toppling from its prestigious global position. It would break its economic influence and gradually shift economic momentum from the West to the East toward the Asian nations. This belief was based on economic and prophetic cycles, which are repeated sequences that reoccur in history. Certain historic events, as you will learn in this book, are on a rotational loop. Once a repetitive cycle is discerned, major events can be repeated in the circuit of human time, often with such precision that predictions of what is coming can be made in advance. My prediction of change and transition coming to America hinged on many links between the patterns of ancient Israel being repeated in America, beginning with Abraham. I taught the unique parallels of America and Israel. God gave Abraham's descendants 4 generations, or 400 years from Abraham's day to entering Egypt to Israel's departure, called the Exodus, Genesis 15, verses 13 and 14. With America mirroring ancient Israel, I noted that America's first colony was established on May 14th, 1607, and 400 years forward takes us to May 14th, 2007. May 14th was the same day Israel was reestablished as a nation in 1948. In retrospect, 2007 introduced a major recession with high gas prices, millions of job losses, and the near collapse of the lending and auto industries. In 2007, we saw the beginning of an unsustainable national debt and a nation of people who are in distress, debt, and discontented. The exact 3 words found in 1 Samuel 22, verse 2, when Saul became king. After predicting change and transition, I was amazed at what I saw in the 2007 United States presidential election. Candidate then-Senator Barack Obama's theme was change, with a promise to fundamentally change America. Recently, with America's stunning and often spiritually frightening changes and transitions, forced government health care and hundreds of new EPA regulations, we find our freedoms eroding, causing many to question, how will America end up? I believe the answer to this question can be found by examining the parallels between our nation, ancient Israel, and imperial Rome. America, ancient Israel, and imperial Rome. I have researched America's parallels with the spiritual, economic, and political cycles of Israel. I have also explored how America mirrors many economic and political patterns of imperial Rome. First, America's political and governmental patterns are now running parallel to the latter years of the Roman Empire, before its economic default and before invading foreign tribes seized control of its territory. However, with imperial Rome, the glorious and invincible empire gradually fell apart as Roman taxes oppressed economic growth, and eventually political Rome fell into the hands of 10 pagan tribes. Yet the Christian church in the West, or Rome, and in the East, Byzantium, began dominating the empire as the Christian faith spread like wildfire throughout the civilized world. Second, in Israel's case, like America, God's covenant people arose from a small tribal clan to a powerful nation of millions after possessing the Promised Land and expelling the other tribes. In America, our spiritual patterns begin with the founding documents of the early colonies. America reflects ancient Israel in its spiritual perception of God and its expansion of a monotheistic faith. In Israel's history, corrupt kings always gave rise for prophetic voices and the revival of faith. If my cyclical thesis proves correct, the Christian faith will have its greatest opportunity in the near future as people can no longer trust their political leaders and lose confidence in the soft economic security built on sand that cannot endure coming storms. See Matthew 7, verses 26 and 27. These 2 templates, Rome and Israel, are so clear and unmistakable that researching the outcome of their past significant events can actually reveal future events for America, unlike any other nation on earth. Some question the methods I use when examining a cyclical code and arriving at certain conclusions. The answer is simple. History repeats. Solomon understood how the future is concealed in the past when he wrote in Ecclesiastes 1, verses 9 and 10. That which has been is what will be. That which is done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. A simple example of cyclical codes, exposing what has already occurred, being repeated in the future, is the history of Christ from his birth to his ascension. In the birth narrative, there was Mary, his mother, Joseph, Mary's husband, and Herod, a Roman procurator, who put a death sentence on a newborn king of the Jews. See Matthew 1 and 2. Approximately 33 years later, the 3 same names appear, but are 3 different people. There is a Mary, called Mary Magdalene, then another Joseph, of Arimathea, along with a new Roman governor, also named Herod, who participated in releasing Christ to the Jewish zealots for crucifixion. See Matthew 27 and 28. At the beginning of Christ's ministry, he fasted for 40 days, and after his resurrection, he appeared before many alive for 40 days. Matthew 4 verse 2, Acts 1 verse 3, and 1 Corinthians 15 verses 5 and 6. Christ ascended back to his Father from the Mount of Olives, and when he returns to earth, the first place he will touch down will be the last place he stood, the Mount of Olives. Acts 1 verses 9 through 11, and Zechariah 14 verse 4. The end reflects the beginning. There are many Old Testament stories with details that hide clues of future events. These events repeat in a different age, time, and often hundreds or thousands of years after the initial story occurred. One of many examples is the Esther Code.